You know when someone has pushed you so close to the wall that you figure out you have to act quickly or you don't know what they might do next. I've been there, and this is my story. Welcome to Karen Conflict. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. It all started when Beatrice, the almighty HOA president, dropped a letter into my box with her smug signature stamped across the bottom. The paper claimed that starting the following week, the HOA board had been granted the authority to inspect the contents of our mailboxes, as to ensure no harmful or disruptive materials entered the neighborhood. I stared at it like it was some prank, but no, this was Beatrice in full control freak mode. She was actually declaring herself neighborhood mail police. I read that letter twice just to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. This was straight-up privacy invasion. Who gave her the right to rifle through private mail? Since when did HOA politics extend into federal property? My brain spun with outrage. A dozen thoughts crossed my mind, from shredding the paper in her face to filing a lawsuit on the spot. But first, I decided to take a calmer approach. Go directly to her. Ask her to explain what kind of circus law she thought she was running. This letter was next level. It wasn't about safety, it was about power. So the next morning, I marched across the street to her house. The place looked exactly as you'd expect. Perfect lawn, trimmed hedges. Garden gnome army positioned like soldiers on patrol. She opened the door with that fake sweet smile that made my blood pressure spike. I handed her the letter, demanded to know who on earth approved this absurd rule, and waited for a reasonable answer. Spoiler, she didn't give one. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments where you're watching this story from. Beatrice's expression when I questioned her could have curdled milk. She crossed her arms, tilted her chin like a queen addressing a peasant, and said, "The law has been passed. It's for everyone's safety. If you know what's good for you, you'll comply." Just like that, shrugging me off as if my rights meant nothing. My jaw clenched so hard I could hear my own teeth grinding. I pressed her further, asking which board members actually signed off on this nonsense. She smirked and muttered, "That's confidential HOA business." The arrogance radiating off her nearly knocked me backward. She wanted absolute control, and she expected the rest of us to roll over like obedient pets. I wasn't having it. Still, I needed backup. I went door to door, talking to my neighbors. Surely they couldn't be okay with Beatrice sticking her nose into their private letters. And I was right. They weren't. Most were angry, but the problem was they were also scared. "It's easier if you just let her be," one neighbor whispered, glancing nervously at Beatrice's house as if she had cameras hidden in their bushes. Another neighbor sighed and said, "She finds anyone who speaks up. It's not worth it." Their fear disgusted me. We were grown adults, yet here we were being bullied by a middle-aged dictator with too much free time. When the law finally went into effect, I kept watch. And sure enough, it wasn't long before I caught Beatrice doing her rounds like some nosy detective. She'd linger by the mailboxes, pretending to inspect the area, then bend slightly too long at a particular box. Mine, the sight of her hovering around my property sent rage coursing through my veins. My mail was mine, not hers. I knew right then this circus had to end. If my neighbors wouldn't act, then I'd do it myself, and not in some boring legal way. Beatrice needed to be stopped in a way she'd never forget. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, sketching out possibilities, like a war general planning a siege. Locking the mailbox wouldn't stop her. She'd find me for unauthorized modifications. Catching her on camera, she'd spin it, claim it was neighborhood watch duty. No, this needed creativity. This needed sting. I cracked a smile. Maybe it was time Beatrice learned to fear my mailbox. Once the idea took root, I couldn't shake it. Beatrice needed to hate my mailbox so much that she wouldn't even glance in its direction again. That's when I remembered my old buddy Julian. He was into beekeeping. The guy treated bees the way others treat dogs, calm around them, completely fearless. If anyone could help me pull off something outrageous but effective, it was him. I called Julian, laid out the situation, and to my surprise, he didn't even laugh. "You want bees in your mailbox?" He repeated and then chuckled. "That's insane." But honestly, it could work. Within an hour, he showed up with a small, ventilated wooden box, the kind beekeepers use to transport swarms. Inside, I could hear the faint hum of wings, an army waiting to be disturbed. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary package. It's perfect bait for a nosy neighbor. That night, I carefully slid the box inside my mailbox, making sure it fit snugly. I wiped sweat from my brow, half nervous, half thrilled. The beauty of it was simple. If anyone but Beatrice approached, I'd intervene. I wasn't trying to hurt an innocent person, just expose the queen bee of the HOA to her own medicine. And to make sure I had ironclad proof, I adjusted my CCTV cameras to focus directly on the mailbox. For 2 days, nothing happened. Beatrice was probably busy cooking up her next bogus rule. But on the third day, right before sunset, I spotted her floral dress bobbing across the street. Clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched like she was patrolling the neighborhood. My heart raced as she approached my property. She paused, glanced around, then crouched in front of my mailbox like a thief in broad daylight. I leaned closer to the monitor as she pulled the door open and reached for the box. The moment her fingers lifted the flap, chaos erupted. A swarm burst out in a golden cloud, buzzing with fury, and before she could scream, they were on her. Beatrice shrieked so loudly I nearly dropped my coffee. She flailed, slapped at her hair, spun in circles, and stumbled into the street. The bees chased her like tiny avengers, stinging every inch of exposed skin. And the best part? My cameras caught everything in crisp, high-definition clarity. I leaned back in my chair, eyes glued to the monitor, grinning like I'd just won the lottery. Beatrice was out there, giving the performance of her life, sprinting down the street with her arms flapping like she was auditioning for some deranged bird role. Every neighbor within earshot peeked outside, phones already recording. Her floral dress snagged on a hedge, ripping as she rolled across a patch of grass, still screaming. The bees weren't playing games. They gave her the VIP treatment, stings everywhere she couldn't cover. It was like karma had hired them full-time. She finally collapsed on the neighbor's front lawn, panting, swollen, and slapping at her skin. By then, the swarm had dispersed, most buzzing off to freedom. My neighbors rushed out asking what happened, but Beatrice's answers were incoherent. Just a jumble of bees, mailbox, sabotage. While she kept wailing, I calmly stepped inside and picked up my phone. I wasn't dialing animal control. Nope, I called the postal inspector's office. I reported a trespasser tampering with my mailbox, explaining that I had video evidence ready. They promised to send someone over. My timing couldn't have been sweeter. By the time Beatrice was sitting up with ice packs from a sympathetic but secretly amused neighbor, a postal inspector's car rolled in. The inspector, a tall man in a sharp suit, walked over with the kind of presence that silenced everyone. He asked for my footage, and I happily obliged. Playing the high-definition clip of Beatrice prying open my mailbox right before the swarm exploded in her face. The crowd watching nearly doubled over laughing. Beatrice, still puffed up like a balloon animal, tried to argue. "He set me up. He planted those bees," she shrieked. The inspector adjusted his glasses and said flatly, "Ma'am, the real issue is that you opened someone else's mailbox. That's federal mail theft." Her mouth dropped open, stung into silence this time. He explained the penalty, adding that her violation would result in fines. When he said the number, $700, her eyes widened in horror. I just smiled from my porch, sipping my coffee like it was the most peaceful evening in history. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Care and Conflict for more. See you next time.